My name is Renata. I am a licensed practical nurse who transitioned into long-haul travel nursing 3 years ago, and before that I spent 4 years working nights in the cardiac unit at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. I have held the hands of people in the last minutes of their lives. I have made decisions under pressure that textbooks cannot teach. I am not a woman who panics. I am a woman who makes a list, works the list, and does not stop until the problem is solved. Layla's father, Marcus, and I divorced when she was 2. It was not a war, it was an ending, quiet, exhausted. We had married 2 and grown into 2 different people before we had the language to say so. Marcus is a good man. He is not the antagonist of this story. He is a man who works offshore in the Gulf of Mexico on 28-day rotations, who sends Layla handmade birthday cards with pressed flowers inside, who video calls every Sunday at 7 p.m. without fail. He loves her. He just is not home. Layla is 6 years old and 41 pounds of organized chaos. She has her father's dark eyes and my stubborn mouth. She communicates mostly in drawings, elaborate, meticulous pictures, produces with the focus of a small architect. She has a particular thing she does when she is happy. She narrows her eyes and says, "I know a secret," even when there is no secret. She just likes the sound of it. I know a secret. I used to hear it 20 times a day. The one flaw that cost me everything is not stupidity. It is not weakness. It is a very specific kind of trust that working people extend to family when they have no other choice. I trusted Patricia Hale because she was Layla's grandmother, because she had raised Marcus, and Marcus turned out decent, because when I sat across from her at the kitchen table in December and asked her help, she looked me in the eyes and said, "Renata, she is my granddaughter. I would never let anything happen to her." I believed her. I had no reason then not to. There was one small moment I dismissed at the time. 6 months before any of this began, Marcus' younger sister, Candace, had a baby shower. I brought Layla. Patricia spent the entire afternoon holding Candace's newborn, showing him off, while Layla sat in the corner of the living room drawing on a paper plate with a crayon she had found in her coat pocket. At one point, I watched Patricia walk past Layla 3 times without looking down. Layla did not say anything. She just kept drawing. I told myself it was a busy day. I told myself Tricia was excited about the new baby. I did not write it down. I should have written it down. The assignment came through on December 11th. I have the email saved. It was from my travel nursing agency, MedBridge Staffing, and the subject line, Ried, Placement Confirmation. Charlotte Regional Medical Center, Charlotte, NC, 13 weeks. Start date January 3rd. The pay package, $847 per week, tax-free stipend included. I had a $18,000 car loan. $6,000 on a credit card I had used to replace the water heater in September, and a childcare debt from the previous summer that I was still paying down at $300 a month. I could not say no. The math was plain. 13 weeks of travel nursing income would eliminate the car loan entirely and cut the credit card balance to nothing. It would give Layla and me a clean financial runway into the next year. And my regular job was waiting for me on the other side of the contract. I had confirmed that in writing with my supervisor, John Whitfield, before I signed anything. The problem was childcare. Layla's daycare did not do 13-week boarding arrangements. My own mother had passed away 2 years earlier. My sister, Deja, lived in Phoenix and was finishing her nursing degree. There was no roster of people I could call. There was only Marcus, who was mid-rotation in the Gulf, and Marcus's mother, Patricia, who lived in a 4-bedroom house in Decatur with her husband, Gerald, their adult son Devon, and Devon's girlfriend, Shay. Devon and Shay had a 3-year-old boy named Caden. I called Patricia on December 14th at 6:30 p.m. I explained the situation fully. I told her it would be 13 weeks. I told her I would pay her $800 a month directly, in addition to covering all of Layla's expenses: food, clothing, school supplies, her gymnastics class at the YMCA on Tuesdays. I told her I would call every day. I told her Marcus and I had already spoken, and he supported the plan. Patricia said yes within 4 minutes of my asking. I documented everything. I drafted a family temporary care agreement, a formal document that listed Layla's medical providers, her allergies, sofa drugs, and latex, her school schedule at Bright Beginnings Academy, her emergency contacts, her insurance card information, and Patricia's authority to authorize non-emergency medical care. I had it notarized at the UPS store on January 2nd. I gave Patricia an original copy and kept one for myself. I also opened a dedicated joint account at Regions Bank tied to Patricia's existing account, into which I set up an automatic transfer of $800 on the first of each month, plus a separate $400 grocery card replenishment. Every dollar was traceable. There were 2 things that gave me a quiet, brief pause that I chose to walk past. The first, when I asked Patricia if Layla could keep her Tuesday gymnastics class, Patricia said, "We'll see how the schedule works." Not of course, we'll see. The second, Layla, when I told her she would be staying with Grandma for a little while, not say anything for a long moment. Then she picked up her colored pencil and went back to the picture. She would say, "I'd see right of it." She just drew. I drove to Charlotte on January 3rd at 5:15 a.m. The first 3 weeks were unremarkable. Patricia sent me a photo on January 11th, Layla at the kitchen table, eating oatmeal, wearing her blue sweater. She looked fine. I called every night at 7 p.m. Sometimes Patricia answered. Sometimes Layla answered. Sometimes neither of them did, and I left a voicemail and waited until the next morning for a call back. The Tuesday gymnastics class stopped after the second week. Patricia told me the instructor had moved the class to Thursday and the timing did not work with Caden's schedule. I asked if they could work around it. She said, "Renata, I am managing 4 people in this house. I am doing the best I can." I said I understood. I sent an email to the YMCA asking about the change, and the coordinator wrote back saying no class time changes had been made. I did not say anything to Patricia about the discrepancy. I noted it in the small black moleskin notebook I had started keeping in January, with the date and the exact words she had used. By week 4, I noticed something in the photos Patricia sent. She sent them sporadically, sometimes 4 in 1 week, then nothing for 10 days. But when they came, they had a pattern. The photos of Caden were warm and staged. Caden in front of the Christmas tree they had kept up through January, Caden with a new toy truck, Caden asleep in Gerald's arms. The photos of Layla were functional. Eating. Layla in front of the house. Layla in the same blue sweater she had been wearing since week 1. I bought Layla 6 outfits before I left. In 30 days of photos, I saw 3 of them, once each. I called Bright Beginnings Academy on February 2nd to check in with Layla's teacher. Albrecht was kind and careful on the phone. She said Layla was doing well academically. Then she paused and said, "I did want to mention, Layla had a few days last month where she seemed a little withdrawn. We had her meet with our counselor, Miss Dana Poole, just for a check-in. Nothing alarming. She just seemed like she was carrying something. I asked what Miss Poole had observed. Miss Albrecht said she would have Miss Poole call me directly. Miss Poole called me the following morning. She said Layla had told her that her cousin Kaden got to have pancakes for breakfast, and she had cereal. She said Layla described this with a matter-of-fact flatness that Miss Poole found more concerning than if she hadn't upset. 6-year-olds are usually dramatic about food inequality, Miss Poole said. Layla talked about it the way an adult talks about weather, like it was just a fact of life she had already accepted. Miss Poole had logged the session in Layla's school file on January 29. I asked her to put anything she observed in writing and send it to the email address I gave her. She did. I saved the email and forwarded it to my personal attorney, a woman named Saleh Kafour, who I had worked with once before on my divorce filing. If you have ever felt that gut feeling that something was wrong but could not prove it, stay with me. Drop a comment and let us keep going. In early February, I received a drawing in the mail. Layla's school did a Valentine's art project, and every child sent their mother a piece. Layla's drawing was a house with 4 windows. In 3 of the windows there were stick figures with smiling faces. The 4th window, the one in the upper right corner, had a single figure that was significantly smaller than the others. It had no face. Around the figure, Layla had drawn what I first thought was rain. When I held it under better light, I could see that each mark was a tiny, careful line, all facing the same direction. Not rain. I taped that drawing to the wall of my rental apartment in Charlotte, and I looked at it every morning while I drank my coffee. The voicemail arrived on February 19th at 11:42 p.m. I had been on a 12-hour shift and my phone was on silent. By the time I listened to it the next morning, it was Devon's voice, Marcus's brother, speaking over the sound of a television in the background. He was talking, not to me. He had misdialed. He said, "She thinks her mom doesn't know. Kid's been tattling to the teacher. Mama said she's going to have a talk with her tomorrow. I do not know what talk. I do not know what Layla had said." I saved the voicemail immediately, forwarded it to Celeste, and called the school directly at 7:51 a.m. the moment they opened. I could not get Patricia on the phone that entire day. Marcus came off rotation on February 21st. I called him at the dock. I told him everything: the gymnastics class, the photos, the counselor session, the voicemail. He was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. "My mother loves Layla." I told him I was not questioning love. I was describing behavior. There is a difference between loving a child and treating her equitably. He would go over to the house and check in. I said I would appreciate that. He called me back at 9:30 p.m. that night. He said Layla seemed fine. He said she had eaten dinner and was watching cartoons. He said she smiled when she saw him. I asked him what she had eaten for dinner. He didn't know. He had arrived after. I asked him if he had spoken to Patricia directly. He said they had talked. He said his mother had expressed that I was creating problems from a distance, and that it was hard enough managing a full house without me calling the school every 5 minutes. That phrase, creating problems from a distance, went into the moleskin with the date and the time. The next revelation came not from Marcus but from Devon Shend. She messaged me on Instagram on February 24th. I do not know why she chose that day or what shifted her. She wrote, "I don't want to be in the middle of this, but Layla cried herself to sleep on Saturday and nobody went in to check on her. I heard her through the wall. I knocked on the door and she said she was okay, but she wasn't okay. I think you should know." She deleted the message 6 hours later. I had already screenshot it and sent it to Celeste. The event that removed all ambiguity happened on a Sunday video call at 7 p.m., February 26th. Layla appeared on camera looking pale. I asked her if she was feeling well. She said yes. I asked her what she had done that day. She started to answer, and then something happened off camera. a sound, a movement, and she stopped mid-sentence and looked to her right. She did not finish her sentence. She said, "Gotta go, Mama." And the call ended. It had been 4 minutes and 11 seconds. I called back 3 times. Patricia answered on the third call and said Layla was tired and it was almost bedtime. It was 7:06 p.m. on a Sunday. Bedtime in our house has always been 8:30. I drove to my supervisor's office the next morning and submitted a formal request for a hardship schedule adjustment. 2 consecutive weekend days off during my remaining 6 weeks of the contract. I was approved for one. I booked a round trip to Atlanta for March 11th and 12th and did not tell Patricia I was coming. I did not make it to March 11th. On March 4th, a Saturday, Patricia called me at 2:17 p.m. Was the voice of a woman who had already decided the outcome of a conversation before she dialed. She said, "Renata, I need to tell you something that happened this morning and I need you to listen." She told me that a pearl bracelet, a piece of jewelry that had belonged to Marcus's late grandmother, Betrayal, and which had been kept in a small wooden box on Patricia's dresser, was missing. She told me that the bracelet had been there on Friday afternoon and was gone Saturday morning. She told me that she had asked everyone in the house and the only person who had no alibi was Layla, because Layla had been seen going upstairs on Friday evening to use the bathroom, which was adjacent to the master bedroom. She told me Layla had taken the bracelet. I asked her, "Did you ask Layla?" She said Layla said she didn't take it. But Renata, she was the only one up there. I asked her, "Did you search the room?" She said, "I searched everywhere." I asked her, "Did you ask Caden?" There was a pause. Then Patricia said, "Caden is 3 years old, Renata." She did not say, "Caden would never do that." She said, "Caden is 3 years old." The distinction mattered. A 3-year-old is capable of picking up a shiny object and putting it somewhere unexpected. She knew that, chose not to pursue it. Instead, she had sat Layla down at the kitchen table at approximately p.m. that Saturday. I know this because Layla told me later, with the flat precision of a child who has rehearsed an experience many times in her mind, and said the following words, "Grandma B's bracelet is missing and I think you know where it is. You need to tell me right now, or I am calling your mother and telling her what you did." Layla had said, "I didn't get Grandma Patriana." Layla, I raised 3 children in this house and none of them ever took anything that didn't belong to them. Layla had said, "I didn't take it." And Patricia had walked away from the table without another word, gone to her room, and called me. Devon was on the couch in the living room during some portion of this. I know this because when I asked to speak to Layla after Patricia's call, and Layla came on the phone, I could hear Devon's voice in the background saying to Shea, "She's been acting sneaky all week." He said it casually, like weather. Like it was a known fact about a 6-year-old had been in their house for 9 weeks and had given no one cause to say anything like that before. The bracelet had a story I would not learn until later. Patricia had shown it to Caden 2 weeks earlier. I know, because Shea eventually told me this in a formal statement, holding it up in the light and saying this will be Caden's wife someday. Shea had thought it was sweet at the time. Caden had reached for it. Patricia had laughed and put it back in the box. A 3-year-old who had seen a shiny object put back in a box on a dresser he could reach if he stood on his tiptoes. Nobody searched Caden's room. Not that day. Not the next day. Not until I arrived. I booked a last-minute flight for March 7th, 3 days after the bracelet call. I arranged coverage for my 2 remaining scheduled shifts through Medbridge. I did not tell Patricia. I did not make it in time to prevent what happened on March 6th. It rained in Decatur that evening. Not dramatically. The local weather report logged it as light to moderate precipitation beginning at approximately 5:30 p.m., temperatures dropping to 44 degrees by 7 p.m. The kind of rain that does not seem dangerous until a child has been sitting in it for a long time. This is what I know happened, pieced together from Dolores Whitman's 911 call. The police report filed by Officer Terrence Gaines of the DeKalb County Police Department. And what Layla told me herself, in pieces, over the following weeks. At approximately 5:45 p.m., Patricia told Layla to go outside and wait on the front steps. The stated reason, as Patricia would later tell the police, was that Layla had been acting out and needed to calm down in some fresh air. Layla was not given a coat. She was wearing the blue sweater. She was wearing canvas sneakers with no socks because she could not find her socks and had been afraid to ask where they were. Layla sat on the top step of the front porch. The porch has a small overhang. When the rain began, it was not enough to keep her dry. She moved to the edge of the step under the overhang and sat with her knees pulled to her chest. Inside the house, Devon and Shea were watching television. Patricia and Gerald had gone to Caden's bedroom to put him down for an early night. At some point, she estimated 45 minutes, though she was not watching the clock. She asked Devon where Layla was. Devon said he thought she was in her room. Shea said she had not seen her come back inside. Devon went to the front door at approximately 6:45 p.m. He looked out through the glass panel. He could see Layla on the step. He later told Officer Gaines he assumed she was fine because she was not crying. He went back to the couch. Dolores Whitman lives directly across the street from the Hale house. She is 71 years old, a retired schoolteacher. She was standing at her front window at 7:04 p.m., watching the rain when she noticed the small figure on the porch steps. She watched for a few minutes. The figure did not move. She put on her raincoat and walked across the street and spoke to Layla directly. Layla's lips, she would later tell Officer Gaines, were visibly blue. She was shaking but not crying. She said, and this is Dolores Whitman's exact words in her witness statement. She said, "Are you cold, sweetheart?" And Layla said, "A little. I'm not allowed to come in until I say sorry." Dolores Whitman knocked on the front door. Devon answered. She told him the child needed to come inside immediately. Devon went and got Patricia. Patricia came to the door and told Dolores that it was a family matter and she appreciated her concern. Dolores said, "Ma'am, that child is hypothermic." She is fine. She just needs to learn. Dolores Whitman went back and dialed at 7:99 at 7:09 left at 7:24 p.m. EMS arrived at 7:27 p.m. Layla's core temperature at 7:31 p.m. was 96.2 degrees Fahrenheit. She was transported to Mercy General Hospital. My phone rang at 7:38 p.m. It was Patricia's landline. I answered on the second ring. I drove. I should not have driven. Charlotte to Decatur is 4 hours and 20 minutes on a clear night, and it was raining the whole way, and I was not in any condition to operate a vehicle safely. I know this. I drove anyway because the alternative was waiting in an airport, and I could not sit still. I arrived at Mercy General Hospital at 11:53 p.m. Layla was pediatric behavior. She was sitting up in the hospital bed in a warming blanket the color of aluminum foil, and she was holding a small paper cup of apple juice in both hands. It was something precious. Her hair was still damp at the edges. She had a pulse oximeter clipped to her left index finger. When I came through the curtain, she looked up and said, "Mama, I didn't take the bracelet." That was the first thing she said. Not I was scared, not I'm cold. I didn't take the bracelet. as if the most urgent item of business was clearing her name. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled her against me. She let me hold her for a while without saying anything. Patricia arrived at the hospital at 12:21 a.m. She came through the curtain with Gerald behind her, and she looked at me with an expression I can only describe as someone recalibrating very quickly. Renata, I didn't know you were coming. I looked at her for a moment, then I said, I know, that was all. I did not raise my voice. I did not list everything I knew. I turned back to Layla, and I did not look at Patricia again that night. She stood there for approximately 90 seconds, during which no one said any to her, and then she and Gerald left the bay. She left without winning. I did not scream. I did not threaten. I let the system do what it was built to do. At 8:14 a.m. on March 7th, from a chair in the family waiting room at Mercy General Hospital, I called Celeste Okafor. I outlined everything I had documented from January through the previous night. She told me to bring her the moleskin, every screenshot, every voicemail, the formal family temporary care agreement, and the school counselor emails. I drove to her office on my way out of the hospital at 11 a.m. with Layla in the back seat, wrapped in the warming blanket she had refused to give back. Celeste filed a formal complaint with the Georgia Division of Family and Children's DFCS that same afternoon. The complaint referenced the hypothermia incident as documented in Officer Gaines's police report, Case No. 2024 DC040471. It referenced the school counselor session notes, referenced Devon's misdialed voicemail. It referenced the 41-pound weight measurement and the pediatric record from Mercy General. A DFCS investigator named Arlene Tatum was assigned to the case within 72 hours. She conducted a home visit at the Hale residence on March 10th. I was not present. I was not permitted to be. But I had provided Arlene Tatum with a written account, 7 pages, single-spaced, citing specific dates and exact quotes for every incident I had documented since January 3rd. I had numbered the entries. I had attached supporting materials as labeled exhibits. On March 11th, Miss Albrecht, Bright Beginnings Academy, submitted Layla's complete attendance and behavioral record to DFCFCS at Arlene Tatum's. Ms. Dana Poole submitted her formal counselorship notes from January 29th. Both documents were entered into the DFCS case file. On March 13th, Officer Gaines submitted his full incident report. Dolores Whitman provided a signed, notarized witness statement. Her statement contained in paragraphs and was written in the clear, structured language a woman had spent 34 years managing classrooms. She described exactly what she saw, what she heard, and exactly what Patricia Hale said to her at the door. She did not editorialize. She did not need to. Celeste also contacted the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office regarding the hypothermia incident as potential criminal neglect. The DA declined to prosecute, citing the absence of intent evidence sufficient for a criminal standard. That was expected. We were not building a criminal case. We were building a family court record. The piece that broke the bracelet allegation OPAME from an unexpected direction. Devon's girlfriend called Celeste on March 15th. She said she had found the bracelet. It was inside Caden's toy bin, under a set of plastic train tracks in the green mesh pocket along the inner side. She had found it on March 14th when she was sorting toys. She had taken a photograph of it before touching it. She said she had watched enough true crime not to move it first. She brought the photograph and the bracelet to Celeste's office herself. The bracelet had never been stolen. It had never been hidden. A 3-year-old boy had picked up a shiny thing and put it in the place he kept his treasures. the way 3-year-olds do. Layla had told the truth every single time anyone asked her. Patricia had never asked the right person. Layla told Ms. Poole, in a follow-up counseling session on March 18th, something that Ms. Poole included in her written notes with Layla's exact words. Grandma Patricia loves Caden the most because he looks like the family. I read that line in Miss Poole's report, and I sat with it for a long time. 6 years old. She had already understood the architecture of what was being done to her. She had no language for it, but she understood it. The DFCS case review meeting was held on March 28th at DeKalb County DFCS field office on Memorial Drive. Present in the room, Arlene Tatum, her supervisor Reginald Oze, Celeste Okafor, Patricia and Gerald Hale with their attorney Martin, and me. Martin Slur spent the first 12 minutes of the meeting making process objections. He questioned the timeline of the complaint, the jurisdiction of the school counselor's notes, and the validity of Dolores Whitman's statement on the grounds that's not a licensed medical professional. Reginald Oze listened to all of it without expression, and then said, Mr. Kessler, the record we are reviewing includes a pediatric hospital report documenting a body temperature of 96.2 degrees in a 6-year-old child who had been outside in 44-degree rain for over an hour. That is the baseline we are working from today. Martin Kessler did not say anything useful after that. Arlene Tatum read the formal findings aloud. DFCS Case No. GA 2020-24, Dato 0 Kingth Noun 2, concluded that the child, Layla, had been subjected to inappropriate disciplinary measures constituting neglectful supervision as defined or OCGA equine 9 find 880. The finding was substantiated. A safety plan was issued requiring that Patricia Hale not serve as an unsupervised caregiver for any child under the age of 12 until a reassessment was completed, which could take up to 18 months. Patricia said one thing during the meeting. She said, I have been taking care of children my entire life. She said it quietly, almost to herself. I looked at her. I know you believe that. It was not a cruelty. It was the truth. She believed herself to be a good grandmother. She had simply loved one child more visibly than another, and she had not understood, or had not cared, what that cost the one she loved less. I did not need her to be a monster. I needed the record to reflect what had happened. It did. Patricia and Gerald left the conference room without speaking to me. Their attorney followed. The door closed. Arlene Tatum had a copy of the formal finding. I folded it and put it in my coat pocket. Then I thanked her and Reginald Oze for their time, and I walked out. I had parked 2 blocks from the DFCS office. It was a cold, clear morning, the kind of Atlanta March day that cannot make up its mind whether it is still winter. Layla was with Miss Poole in a supervised playroom at Bright Beginnings for the morning. I was supposed to pick her up at noon. I arrived at 11:47. She was at the art table when I came in. She was wearing a yellow dress I had bought her in January, the one with the small white buttons down the front, the first time I had seen her in it. It had been in her bag at the Hale house the whole time. When she saw me, she said, I know a secret. I said, what's the secret? She held up the drawing she had been working on. It was a house. In every window, a face with a smile. In the bottom corner, outside the house, 2 figures standing together. The smaller one had my stubborn mouth. They were holding hands. She had drawn a sky full of sun. I folded the drawing carefully and put it in my coat pocket next to the DFCS finding. Then I took her hand and we walked out to the car together. That was 7 months ago. Layla is in 1st grade now at Westview Elementary, 3 blocks from our apartment in Vine City. She has a teacher named Mr. Okonkwo who sends weekly updates and who noted in his September progress report that Layla has an unusual and impressive capacity for focused independent work. She has started drawing comics, little 4-panel strips about a girl detective who solves mysteries using only a magnifying glass and a notebook. The detective's name is Layla. The cases mostly involve missing cookies and confused dogs. She has not lost the blue sweater. She wears it sometimes on cold evenings. She does not seem to have any particular feeling about it one way or the other. It is just a sweater. Children are more resilient than our guilt allows us to believe, and also more scarred than their smiles show. Both things are true at the same time, and the honest thing is to hold both. I completed my Charlotte contract on April 18th and returned to Grady Memorial full-time on May 1st. As confirmed in writing, the car loan is paid off. The credit card balance is gone. I have a savings account that has a number in it I have never had before. Patricia and Gerald Hale are subject to the DFCS safety plan through September of next year. Any contact between them and Layla requires my advance approval and Marcus's. Marcus and I have a parenting coordination now, drafted by Celeste, signed by both of us, filed with DeKalb Family Court. Case No. 2020 FC 177. It is not perfect. Nothing about divorce is perfect. But it is documented and it is fair. Devon and Shea are no longer together. Shea moved out of the Hale house in April. She sent me a card, a plain white card, nothing on the front, and inside she wrote, "I should have said something sooner. I'm sorry. I read it twice and put it in the drawer where I keep important things. I have not written back yet. I may, eventually. Some bridges cannot be rebuilt quickly. Some need time to dry before you put weight on them." The pearl bracelet is in a small wooden box on Patricia's dresser, exactly where it has always been. Here is what I know. Documentation is not coldness. Building a paper trail is not the opposite of love. It is what love looks like when love has to navigate a system. Every date I wrote in that moleskin was an act of care. Every email I forwarded to Celeste was a way of saying, this child's experience is real, and it will not disappear into someone else's version of events. If you are watching this right now and you have that quiet, nauseating feeling that's wrong with the wrong for your child, trust it and document it. Write down the date. Write down the exact words. Save the voicemail. Screenshot the message. Email the teacher. Make the appointment with the school counselor. Open a notebook. The truth does not need to be loud. It needs to be specific. If this reminded you that your instincts are evidence too, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for being here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next.